On September 28th, Jennifer Gledhill called police to report her husband, Matthew Johnson, missing. Less than a week later, she was taken into police custody, and now she's facing charges for her husband's murder.
On September 28, 2024, the calm night air of Cottonwood Heights, Utah, was broken by a phone call that would eventually unravel a story of love, betrayal, and murder. At exactly 11:47 p.m., Jennifer Gledhill picked up the phone and dialed police to report her husband, Matthew Johnson, missing. Her voice sounded steady, almost rehearsed, but what Jennifer said next would seal her fate forever. This was no ordinary missing person report. It was the first step in a web of lies, cover-ups, and confessions that would eventually expose her as the killer of her own husband, a man who had dedicated his life to his family and his country. Before we get into the full story of betrayal, love, and murder, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into true crime cases like this one. Now let's begin the chilling case of Jennifer Gledhill. To those who knew them, Jennifer and Matthew appeared to be a picture-perfect couple. They lived in a $1 million home in an upscale neighborhood, raising 3 young children, aged 11, 7, and 5, surrounded by the trappings of success and stability. Matthew Johnson, 51 years old, was more than just a husband and father. He was a highly respected member of the Utah National Guard's 19th Special Forces Group, a Green Beret, who had spent over a decade serving his country. His fellow soldiers described him as reliable, brilliant, and deeply committed, a man who carried the weight of responsibility with pride. His friends knew they could count on him not just on the battlefield, but in everyday life. Jennifer, at 42, was often described as a homebody. To outsiders, she seemed kind, warm, and supportive, the archetype of a devoted military wife who anchored the household while her husband carried out his demanding service. Friends and neighbors had seen the family together at community gatherings, smiling, polite, and seemingly normal. From the outside looking in, there was little reason to suspect anything was wrong. But behind the closed doors of their immaculate home, a storm had been brewing for months. Court documents and testimony would later reveal that Matthew and Jennifer's marriage had been deteriorating long before tragedy struck. By July 2024, the couple had been openly considering divorce. Their relationship, described by a commissioner as highly dysfunctional, had spiraled into bitterness, resentment, and constant conflict. In August, Jennifer went to court and filed for a temporary protective order against Matthew, claiming she needed protection from her husband. For a moment, it looked as though the law might intervene to put distance between the two of them. But when Commissioner Russell Minus reviewed the evidence Jennifer provided, he reached a very different conclusion. The videos she had submitted to prove she was fearful actually showed the opposite. She appeared unafraid, confrontational, and at times the aggressor. Text messages she had written to Matthew revealed a pattern of berating, belittling, and demeaning language, with Jennifer repeatedly trying to provoke him into reactions he refused to give. In the end, Commissioner Minus dismissed her request, ruling that no abuse had occurred. His written statement was chilling in hindsight. He noted that their conduct reflected a marriage so broken that divorce should have been filed long before, but he could not find evidence that Matthew had posed a threat to her safety. What no one realized then was that Jennifer had already begun charting her own course of action, an action far more final than divorce. As the weeks ticked by, Matthew's friends began noticing changes in his behavior. He had grown increasingly wary of his wife's moods and actions. According to those closest to him, Jennifer's erratic behavior had escalated to the point where Matthew feared for his own safety. He began sleeping away from home, often staying at a National Guard facility rather than risk staying under the same roof with her. In conversations with longtime friend and fellow guardsman Kevin Thompson, Matthew admitted that the marriage was over. He confided that divorce was inevitable, that he was ready to move on. But Matthew would never get the chance. Jennifer, unbeknownst to him, was living a double life. She had entered into an affair with another man, and it wasn't just a fleeting romance. It was passionate, consuming, and reckless. Her lover quickly became the focal point of her emotions and her thoughts, and the affair drove a wedge into the already fragile remains of her marriage. 2 days before the murder, Jennifer showed her lover a gun, a Glock 19X she kept in the house. To him, it may have seemed insignificant. After all, many military families kept firearms. But prosecutors would later argue that this moment wasn't casual at all. It was foreshadowing, a glimpse into Jennifer's mindset as she prepared to carry out her plan. On the evening of September 20th, 2024, Matthew confronted Jennifer about the affair. Neighbors and witnesses later reported hearing the raised voices of an argument, a heated exchange in which years of resentment and betrayal finally burst into the open. According to Jennifer's own confession, Matthew yelled at her for her infidelity, his anger born not just of betrayal but of the realization that the marriage he had tried to hold together was truly over. What happened in the hours that followed remains both shocking and chilling. In the early hours of September 21st, as Matthew slept in the master bedroom, vulnerable and unaware, Jennifer made her move. She picked up Matthew's own 9mm handgun and shot him in the head. The act was cold, calculated, and final. In an instant, she ended the life of a man who had dedicated himself to his family and his country, a father who would never again see his children grow, a soldier who would never again stand beside his comrades. But Jennifer didn't stop there. She set into motion a carefully orchestrated cover-up, one that revealed just how methodical she had become. She placed Matthew's body into a rooftop storage container, dragged it down the stairs, and loaded it into the family minivan. She smashed his phone to eliminate digital traces and then drove his truck to a nearby neighborhood, abandoning it to create the illusion that Matthew had left voluntarily. With chilling determination, she drove north with her husband's body and buried him in a shallow grave at a location that remains undisclosed. When she returned home, she launched into an extensive cleanup operation, bleaching walls, scrubbing carpets, and ordering a brand new mattress to replace the blood-soaked one. But for all her meticulous planning, Jennifer made one critical mistake. On September 22nd, she visited her lover and, perhaps unable to contain her secret, confessed everything. She described how she had shot Matthew, disposed of his body, and cleaned up the crime scene. She even explained the bruises on her body as injuries sustained during the burial and cleanup. Her lover, horrified, listened as the woman he thought he knew casually recounted the murder of her husband. He would later record a phone conversation in which Jennifer chillingly dismissed her husband's humanity, saying, quote, "He's not a person anymore." He wasn't mad. Her detachment was unnerving, her words cold and detached. In another conversation, when asked if she would be afraid if their positions were reversed, Jennifer replied, "Not if I deserved it. I've always said I was the Queen of Hearts in a past life. Off with their heads. If we could just round up the scum of the earth and kill them all, I could fix this country." The callousness of her remarks sent chills down the spine of her lover, who began collecting evidence, screenshots of messages, recordings of phone calls, and every shred of proof he could gather. 6 days after Jennifer's confession, she finally reported Matthew missing, telling police he had left home and asked her not to contact him. But by then, the Utah National Guard had already raised alarms after Matthew failed to report for duty. When police executed a search warrant at the Johnson-Gledhill home, they found evidence that contradicted Jennifer's story. Bloodstains on the carpet and bed frame, reddish-brown spots on the walls, the overpowering smell of bleach, and, most tellingly, a brand new mattress ordered just days after the murder. GPS data from Jennifer's phone placed her near the area where Matthew's abandoned truck was found, as well as traveling north toward Davis County, where she claimed to have buried him. On October 2, 2024, armed with recorded confessions, phone records, and forensic evidence, police arrested Jennifer Gledhill for first-degree murder and obstruction of justice. The investigation didn't stop with her. On October 24th, Jennifer's parents, Thomas and Rosalie, were also arrested for obstruction of justice after evidence showed they had helped her cover up the crime, spending hours at the house during the cleanup, and even purchasing the replacement mattress. A gun box matching Jennifer's Glock was later found hidden in their home, wrapped inside a child's onesie. Months after Jennifer's arrest, Matthew Johnson's body still has not been found. Extensive searches spanning multiple Utah counties, assisted by law enforcement, volunteers, and Matthew's military friends, have failed to recover his remains. The haunting absence of a body leaves the Johnson family in agonizing limbo, desperate for closure. His children, now fatherless and effectively motherless, are left to navigate a world forever changed by one act of betrayal. Jennifer faces charges including first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, abuse of a human body, possession of a controlled substance, and tampering with a witness. She has pleaded not guilty and remains in custody at Salt Lake County Jail, denied bail after prosecutors argued she posed a danger to the community, and even hinted at suicidal threats to avoid prison. Her trial is scheduled for December 8, 2025, expected to last 8 days. At the heart of this case lies the haunting question, why? Why would a mother of 3, a woman with a stable home and comfortable life, choose to destroy it all in pursuit of an affair? Prosecutors suggest the motive was simple. Jennifer wanted freedom. Freedom from the constraints of a messy divorce, custody battles, and financial burdens. freedom to continue her relationship with her lover without consequence. In her mind, murder seemed easier than divorce. But the consequences of her decision will reverberate for decades. 3 children have lost both parents, one buried in an unmarked grave, the other behind prison walls. A community has been scarred by betrayal, and a family waits, hoping one day to recover Matthew's body and finally lay him to rest. Jennifer's actions remind us that beneath the facade of normalcy, darkness can lurk. To the outside world, the Johnson-Gledhill family looked perfect. Inside, secrets, lies, and selfish desires consumed them until they exploded in violence. It's a story of how love twisted into obsession, how betrayal morphed into murder, and how one woman's choices shattered countless lives. As the trial approaches, the world watches, waiting for justice. But no verdict can bring back Matthew Johnson. No sentence can fill the empty chairs at the family table or heal the wounds left in the hearts of his children. Somewhere in northern Utah, the body of a decorated soldier remains hidden, a silent reminder of betrayal's ultimate cost. This is the tragic, haunting story of Jennifer Gledhill and Matthew Johnson. A story of a secret affair turned deadly, of a woman who chose murder over divorce, and of a family left searching for answers in the shadow of unthinkable loss. What do you think about this case? Was Jennifer's crime driven by desperation, selfishness, or something darker? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this documentary compelling, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true crime stories, and share it with others who follow these haunting cases. Until next time, stay safe and take care.